All right. Hello and welcome, Just a Family. This is giving you something to talk about, or Just a Live TV, as I like to call it. Please ignore my voice today. I have allergies or head cold or something going on today, so I apologize if I'm coughing or sneezing during this episode. Today, we're going to be talking about what is your intuition. This is quite the topic. I'm very excited to be doing this topic with our guest speaker. Sponsor today, the Butterfly Lotus Company. Intuition is something that we all have. Learn how to unlock and connect with your intuition and your spiritual gifts and abilities. Start today by downloading the Introduction to Spiritual Gifts and Abilities. Link in the description. I'm going to hand it over to my guest speaker today to introduce themselves. Jenny, would you like to say hello?
Hi, I'm Jenne Sharpe. I live in the beautiful state of Washington, and I'm an intuitive guide.
Love it. All right. So do you get asked that question at all? I know that, like, my daughter today, she's like, oh, what are you doing for the show? And she's 8. And she's like, I was like, oh, I'm doing What Is Your Intuition? She goes, so what is your intuition? So I already had this discussion with my 8-year-old today, but do you ever get that question? I know I've gotten that question multiple times of what is your intuition?
Yes, I get asked that all the time. Not just what is your intuition, but also like how do you decipher it from other things? And to me, your intuition is really just that kind of inner knowing, that little voice that gives you some direction. And I think it shows up differently for everybody. Whether, some people call it a gut feeling, or just kind of that knowing, but I believe it's really that connection to our higher selves, or to that like universal energy that can give us some guidance. And not that you have to follow it, you've got free will, you can do anything you want. And also, I think for me, as someone who's a perfectionist with OCD, I kind of thought like, oh, well, now that I know how to listen to my intuition, I'll never get anything wrong now. I'll just listen to my intuition and everything will be perfect. And I just want to preface this conversation with that is not true whatsoever, but it can be a very beautiful way to live when you are listening to that inner guidance. It's not always comfortable. It's not always the easiest way, the easiest path to take, but it's very, very beautiful and very fulfilling.
Well, and you're right. It is that gut feeling, that inner knowing. It is like the sixth sense and mother's intuition. And, it's an energetic part of us. I think that a lot of people think that it's strictly spiritual, and it's not. You don't have to be spiritual. You don't have to believe in anything. Everybody has an intuition, that inner knowing, that gut feeling of, oh, I left my stove on, or, did I leave the car running, or whatever the question may be. But we all are intuitive. It just, as we grow older and as we learn life's lessons, it almost becomes conditioned out of us that our intuition is, and not to go into all the spiritual gifts and abilities, but I'm going to for a second, is everybody's an intuitive. Everybody has that gift. It's an ability that we're born with. Everybody has it because it's energetic, right? It is an energetic connection to the universe, to spirit, to your higher self, to your past lives, to, if you want to go into spirituality, into everything, right? But people who are psychic, people who use their clairs, mediums, healers, we all kind of access that inner knowing. And a lot of the times as we're growing up, we're told it's coincidence. It's fluke, or it's our imagination, or anything along those lines. Yet we're using it all the time. And again, even if you're not spiritual, you're still using that tool that you're born with, that access that you have. For anybody watching or catching the replay, have you ever just felt like you knew something at the deepest part of yourself? You knew something, and then you can't remember where you learned it, or where you got that information from, or anything like that. Now, on one hand, that could be psychic. Now, if it's a past or present thing, or futuristic especially, then it's most likely psychic. But with the intuition, it's knowing things that maybe you shouldn't really know, or maybe just like there's no really indication of where you might have learned it from, or how you have that information. It's just there.
Yeah. And intuition, I completely agree with you that as we grow up, we're conditioned out of it, because from what I've learned is that intuition is, it's feeling, and it's a very feminine energy. And our society is very masculine, and it is very logic based. And your intuition is definitely not logical at all. Your feelings are not logical. Just knowing something isn't logical. And so I think a lot of people get really hung up on, oh, I have to make a pros and cons list. I need to, is this the best thing? Is that the best thing? Well, maybe I should. And then they start using all these shoulds. And that's a really good indicator that that's not your intuition, that that's your logical brain trying to, find the best choice using your logic. But yeah, it's really not logical. And so I think that's why a lot of people have a hard time following or even trusting to take steps with their intuition, because it's kind of goes against everything they've been taught.
Yeah. And when you're trying to re-access it, so let's get back to what is intuition? We've already covered that. Reiteration is, it's that inner knowing. It's knowing, just having that gut feeling, the sixth sense, the mother's intuition, all of that. It's the knowing. Now, when you have that intuition, when you want to access it and unlock it, you're trying to get rid of the conditioning, right? You're trying to get rid of the would have, should have, could have, what ifs, all of those, because they're, like you said, logical based, right? But if you just feel into it, right? Now, you and I were talking, we'll get to this one in a moment, is intuition versus fear, right? And we're going to get into that, intuition versus logic, intuition versus fear. If you're walking down a dark alley and you're like, should I really go down that dark alley? That's a little bit of both, right? That's your fear and your intuition, because logically you've been told don't walk in dark alleys. But intuitively you're like, what if there is something in there, right? And again, it goes back to the what if. But if you're walking down the street and you're like, oh, it's middle of the day, right? Middle of the day, and you're walking down the street, you're going back home. Maybe you got your groceries or whatever, and you're just, you've gone to the corner store and you're like, oh, maybe I'll take the shortcut today. Right? Maybe I'll take the shortcut back home. You've taken that shortcut thousands of times, but in your head, you're going, I really don't feel like it today, though. There's something's telling me not to go down that path today. That's your intuition, right? That's your intuition going, no, we need to go this way and avoid that. And a lot of people talk about it, and I'm getting excited about this part. But how many people do you see on social media, on, stories that they've told, where they're like, something happened and I left 5 minutes late, or something came up, or I answered a phone call I wouldn't have answered, or whatever. You did something or said something or felt something that you didn't normally feel, to now go into, okay, it's 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, an hour later, and you're like, if I had gone down that path, I would have been in that car accident, or I would have been, at that fire, or somebody was assaulted or whatever. How many times have I would have been there if I hadn't have done this, or if I hadn't have taken that 5-minute break, or whatever it looked like, right?
Yeah.
We hear it all the time.
We do. And those are definitely like the drastic circumstances of, those life and death type situations of what could have happened. But a lot of the times, like, your intuition will come up in like much more subtle ways that you can use day to day. For me, when I try to feel into my intuition about, making a choice, like, do I want to take this client on? Do I want to, do this, job? And even though I'm, my brain is looking at the money, or, like looking at the, oh, here's all the good parts about it. But when I really feel into it, I start, no, I don't feel like this is the right fit. And then realizing, what, it really, it would have been okay. I could have probably made it work, but I don't want to live my life making things work. But a lot of times we, when we're making decisions, with logic or based on money, or, different things like that, we end up, getting burnt out or being resentful, or not feeling like, man, I really didn't have the time to do this, I really don't want to be here doing this, I really shouldn't have taken this client on because it's problematic, for whatever reason. So um there's definitely those big scary, like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I trusted my intuition because this bad thing could have happened. But also just using it on that like day to day, more like micro level of really feeling out, is that really going to be best for me?
Yeah. Do I really want to do this? We were doing an episode the other day, and I had said we use our intuition when we're looking for clients, right? There's something we're looking for. And as we go through life, there are things we're looking for, whether that's our lessons, our purpose, our soul contracts, right? Like we came here to learn XYZ or whatever that may be. And so we really question our intuition. And there are times somebody had asked me while we were doing the episode, what do you look for in a client? How do you know? And I said, it's intuitive, right? You feel into it. There are times I do pre-screenings for the show. So if anybody's interested in being a guest on the show, I do pre-screenings. So ask me about that. But even Jenny, we did a pre-screening, and at the beginning of most of my pre-screenings, I say, hey, if you feel like it's not a good fit, let me know. I don't take offense. If I feel like it's not a good fit, please, I'll let you know. Please don't take offense, right? Because there is that intuitive feeling, right? You feel into it and you're like, does this align with me? Does this feel good? Do I like this topic, right? And really just getting into those feelings of how does it make me feel when you are emotionally, what's the word I'm looking for? If you are emotionally overwhelmed by an outcome, right? So let's say, us looking for clients, or even somebody looking to switch jobs, right? If you're looking at the money aspect of it, again, you're going that logic route, right? Where it's like, okay, well, the money is going to be good, but I'm going to be working more and I'm going to be doing this. And there's the logical aspect of it. But then there's also that, how does it feel? Mm-hmm. Right? Does this feel good? Do I like where I'm at? Do I feel good about this person? Do I feel good about where they're at? Whatever that looks like. And asking yourself to really just check in with your feelings. And your intuition isn't going to just affect your energy, right? It is an energetic thing, but it impacts your physical body. It impacts your mental, emotional. If you're about to do something and you feel fear, right? It provides those feelings. And most of the time when you're having a feeling, there's a physical representation of that. There's energetic representation of that. So it's not just that inner knowing. There's the physical aspects of it too, right? And if you're fighting your intuition, you're going to feel that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I definitely lean into how things feel in my body to lean into my intuition. It's not, it's not simply like, am I just listening for an answer? It can be, but a lot of the times it's more like, how does this feel in this space? If, something feels calm, if it feels kind of like everything's open, that's generally, a really good sign. If it feels like everything is contracting or going this, kind of feeling, I know that's a no. And that generally, when we start looking at our language, that's when things are shoulds, or, based on money, or, trying to make it work. That's the situations where I get those really, closed feelings in my body. And that's really the best thing you can do with your intuition is starting that journey of being aware of what things feel like. And it can be kind of confusing because, I've taken on clients and had, been really nervous, like, oh man, I don't know, are they open enough? Are we connecting enough? And, kind of getting into my own anxiety and worry, but then kind of feeling back into it and having that feeling of like, it's okay. It's okay. Keep going. It's going to be okay. And then they turn out to be an amazing client, just because you had this one interaction where you weren't quite sure. Like, there's sometimes, like you said, that inner knowing that can, kind of check back into that and be able to feel like that that little voice saying, keep going, it's okay, you got this.
Yeah. And I love how you mentioned that sometimes it is, if you are more spiritually gifted, you'll get that voice that goes, yep, this is okay, or nope, this is not good. And I love that you mentioned that. I just wanted to point that out. Going to my next point, you think about intuition, and again, we were talking about intuition versus fear. There's a difference between feelings and emotions, right? Your emotions, guaranteed, every emotion that you feel is logic based. There is some mental belief or scenario that is creating an emotion. Your emotions are created by your brain. That's where your emotions come in, right? And a lot of people don't realize that your brain creates your emotions, right? But your energy creates the feelings. Feelings are completely different. Like, I mean, you can be feeling happy, right? But it's an internal thing. When you're, happy and it's hard to explain, but emotions and feelings are completely different. So fear, right, is an emotion. Mm-hmm. But it can be a feeling. That's the tricky part. It can be both, right? So finding out, and I think for people, it's a little bit harder to explain right now because I'm putting myself on the spot, and I don't do well putting myself on the spot. But when you can differentiate between emotional and energetic feeling, like that, the emotional and the feeling, mm-hmm. That's, so your intuition, if you're walking down a path that you've gone 1,000 times before, and your brain or your feeling goes, nope, I'm a little bit nervous to go that way, right? There's no logical reason for you to be feeling that way, mm-hmm. Right? And it's just something that happens. That's the feeling. But if your brain's going, well, there's somebody down there that doesn't look quite right, or, when we get our judgmental into our head, or if there's a situation going on down there, that's logical, right? Where you're thinking, okay, that's probably not a safe situation. I'm going to go the other way. That's logical, right? That's emotional. So it's easy for me. It's harder to explain than it is to show people what the difference is between the emotional and the feeling.
Yeah, and you're right about, the brain, with our thoughts can trigger certain emotions, especially when, if we've had different situations in the past, you dated somebody and they acted a certain way. So if, you're dating somebody now and they don't pick up the phone, your emotions kind of start going with, oh, they're cheating on me, like you immediately jump to that. And that's not necessarily your intuition. That might just be more, your brain basing that off past situations. But you can kind of go back and check into that feeling that for me really is in the heart space of, is where my brain going with this? Is that what I should be trusting? That type of thing. And when we're looking at intuition versus fear, there's, so many different ways to look at it. One is, like I said earlier, looking at your language. Are you basing this on what other people expect of you? Are you basing it off of shoulds? Looking at your language, are you basing it on what might happen that could be bad, versus you have a feeling that you're being called to it. And sometimes it feels like kind of like a little string that you're, kind of attached to this outcome, to this thing that you want to go find it. You want to go try, what you're trying, a new job, career, or, a new hobby or something. And you just, there's something in you pulling that direction. I would say that is more based on, your intuition and, more of what is true to you versus, well, I shouldn't do it because it's expensive, or what if this bad thing happens? Or so you can really be looking at your language. You can be looking at the feeling of it. Is it a feeling of expansion, of being drawn towards something, of being excited about it? Or is it a feeling of shutting down, of, well, I want to keep myself safe from that. I'd rather, like our subconscious brain wants you to stay in the exact same place you've always been, even if it is uncomfortable, because known uncomfortable is better than unknown uncomfortable. And so, yeah, so starting to look into how things feel in your body, the language you're using, and just being curious, why is my brain, causing these, emotions? Or am I looking to an external? Am I looking to somebody else to tell me what is the best decision, to the society we grew up in, the expectations that our parents have of us, of, will my partner be mad? When you strip all of that away, what's the thing that's exciting you? What's the thing that you feel drawn to? That, to me, that's where all that good intuition, your inner knowing, that's what you should be listening to, versus all the external.
Absolutely. One of the things that I teach my own clients is how to control your emotions, right? I've created an entire methodology that teaches people how to control your emotions. When your emotions are logic-based, mental-based, all of that, you have the ability to control them, right? And be able to release them, remove them, process them, all of that. So if you learn how to control your emotions, that I would definitely say is another way to access your intuition, is learn how to control your emotions. Shut down the noise, control your emotions, control your thoughts, control what's happening around you, and just be. And that allows you, when you truly connect with your core self, with your intuition, with your inner knowing, with the person you are at your core, it quiets everything else. Mm-hmm. Right? And you get to just sit there and be, and you can focus on, what are my emotions? What are my thoughts? What are my feelings? What is my physical body and my energy telling me? It is insane the amount of things that we can uncover and unlock when we learn how to just be and read our intuition and read our energy and our body and our mind and go, okay, this thought is coming from this memory. We're just going to acknowledge it and then remove it and see how we feel, right? Yeah. And when you can learn how to do that, it unlocks a lot of different potential, right? Because then you're not emotionally overwhelmed or overstimulated by all of the emotions that are going on in your head. You're not overwhelmed or overstimulated by past thoughts, by limiting beliefs, by the fear, by, getting out of your comfort zone. That's a huge one when people are using their intuition, right? There is a level of fear. And that's why I mentioned that fear can be logical and emotional and a feeling. If you're going out of your comfort zone to try something new, right? That fear might be healthy. It might be, okay, we're going to try this. It's good. We're a little bit nervous. And it's a humbling effect, right? Because then you're not, I'm gung-ho, going to go at this all crazy willy-nilly. It's okay. I'm calm. I'm understanding that there's lots of stuff going on, but I'm still feeling that pull, because I love how you said that. There is that internal pull. I'm feeling that pull. I'm going to try it anyway, right? And that's when you logically follow your intuition and say, okay, I'm feeling the fear. Fear is healthy because it's something I've, not comfortable with. I can use the talk show as an example of that. A few years ago, I have had massive stage fright, majority of my life. And to the point where I would start shaking, crying, rocking. I would stutter all over my words. And I never liked being the center of attention. I don't like photos. I don't like, hearing my own voice or being on camera. And yet a year ago, I started a talk show, right? Where I do it all the time. And it was absolutely terrifying. But it was great. And I was feeling very drawn to it and I was feeling the tug to it, right? And so I did it. And look at, we're, over 200 episodes already of the show. So it's knowing the difference of what you're feeling, what your intuition is telling you, whether or not the fear is healthy fear or, limiting belief fear, whether there's so many different variables. And as you start to open your intuition, I don't want to scare anybody. As you start to open your intuition, those variables go away because you learn how to distinguish. You learn what your signs and symptoms are. You learn how to distinguish between your emotional, thought, mental brain, all of it. You learn how to say, okay, this is how my body feels today. And you start to make the decisions based on your truest needs.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another great way when you start examining, decisions and choices that you have to make. If I didn't have this fear, what choice would I make? If I didn't have this, limiting belief or worry, what choice would I make? Because of course, fear at a primal level is there to make us, to keep us safe. We just have to, kind of double check, like, okay, well, being, like doing a talk show or, being on a podcast, like that might bring up fear, but it's, it's not going to kill you. So there's kind of checking, putting that fear in its place. Like, yeah, I know you're scared, but this isn't the fear that you think it is. This is okay to move forward with. And at this point, I've just gotten really uncomfortably comfortable, with following something that calls me. Like earlier this year, I decided I want to do a 1-day retreat, or even when I take a new class or, whatever it is, if I feel the pull to do it, I don't let myself react to any fear or negative beliefs that come up. I move forward with it. And I have just got to the place where I've trained myself, like, I can be scared about it later.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. I'll be scared about it later, but I'm going to sign up for it, or I'm going to plan it, or I'm going to, whatever it is. And then of course, the day before it's like, oh yeah, there's that, there's that fear and those limiting beliefs coming up. But I feel like it's a really healthy thing to do, because then you are able to, really go after the things you want, follow your intuition, and not let fear be the drive, not be in the driver's seat. Fear should be in the back seat. And so it does still come up. I still get nervous. I still get anxious about things, and knowing that that's normal. When you try something new, you're probably going to be nervous. You're probably going to have butterflies, and be scared that you might mess it up or whatever. But just letting yourself like be comfortable that you're going to be uncomfortable, and doing it anyway, and still moving forward with the things that you want to experience in life.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, that sounds like a really good way to end the show, and a very inspired way to end the show. Is there anything you'd like to add before we go?
Just that, it's a journey. It's going to be a journey with, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself to get everything perfect, to get it right. Like, oh, is this my intuition? Is it not? Am I just making this up? Or, just let it be a journey. Let yourself be able to play with it like you would a kid, and, play with it weekly or daily, and start getting to know yourself, know your body, know what things feel like. What happened when you made that choice? Were you resentful when you made the choice that was logic based? And just, be open to the experience and the journey, so that your intuition can grow, because it's not generally going to just be, it's completely off or it's completely on. It's, a journey of opening yourself up to it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that is our episode today. If any of you would like to connect with Jenny, you can do so. Her links are in the description of this video. I've had an amazing time talking about intuition. I love intuition, and I think everybody needs to, or should, not needs to, but should access their own. So thank you so much, Jenny, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Our sponsor today, the Butterfly Lotus Company. Go and download the Introduction to Spiritual Gifts and Abilities, learn what they are and how they might work for you. I'm your host, Melissa Krechler. If you would like to be a guest speaker, blogger, sponsor, or if you would like to see a topic featured on the show, please reach out to us at justalivetv.com. Like, follow, and share. And I hope to see all of you on the next episode.